Hey everybody, it's Matt Johnson. We're back with another episode of the Team Building Podcast. We've got an amazing guest with us today, and this is an episode that's focused on the operations side. So if you're an operations manager, a marketing director, or especially if you are, of course, a rainmaker who's having to do it all, who's wearing multiple hats, and you really want to get the operations side of your business together to make the next jump, and anyone that has any type of admin role within a top real estate team, this episode is for you. So we've got a great guest. Like I said, we've got Lori Little here from California, and we're going to talk to her about some of the real struggles and frustrations and ongoing projects and how she deals with the role of operations manager in the role of her 50-50 partnership with her team. And as always for these episodes, we're joined by our operations manager in our flagship Omaha office. This is the number one office, number one team in the entire state of Nebraska, Kevin McGowan. Kevin, what's up, man?
Hey, Matt. How's it going?
Very, very good.
Good.
All right. So then we're going to bring in our special guest, Lori Little. Lori, how are you?
I'm doing great this morning. Thank you.
Good. All right. So first of all, Lori, break down a little bit for me where you guys are and who else is on your team with you.
Okay. I'm Lori Little, and I work for a brokerage, PMZ Real Estate, in Northern California. We're in the San Joaquin County area, based out of Manteca. It's a smaller agriculture community. And on my team, I have a 50-50 partnership with my business partner, Lori Adams. And over the years, currently there's four agents that are working, and Lori and I are included in that number. And we work with a transaction coordinator, a listing coordinator. We have a business manager that's kind of oversees everything. And
okay.
Then we also have a client care coordinator, which would be like the ISA.
Yeah, and that's one of the interesting things that came up the first time that we spoke is that person, they're almost like a hybrid role. So they're doing both like lead scrubbing or lead generation as well as actually speaking with clients, right?
Correct. We kind of have them, they answer the phone when the phone rings. So they're our receptionist. They're our client care coordinators, talking to our clients as they come in, and then they're scrubbing leads, working on different ways. And we've got them involved in even with some of the marketing side of the lead generation, just because they come up with some great ideas working within we use Boomtown. So working within the system of Boomtown, there's some things that they're in there every single day that they've been able to come up with some really great ideas for that.
Interesting. Okay, well, that's pretty cool. All right, so talk to me a little bit about kind of how you guys structure, with it being a 50-50 relationship with your partner, Lori Adams, the Loris. So you guys are both still semi-active in terms of still working with clients, and explain to me kind of how that works and how you break down who handles what part of the business.
Well, I have to say, initially starting off, it was a struggle for us, because neither one of us either wanted to give up a role, or we didn't want the other person to feel like we weren't pulling our end of the weight. So, but naturally, Lori's more creative, marketing, things like that. I'm more number crunching, financial, tracking, that sort of thing. So we've started that process. We're still working on it. I mean, it's always a work in progress. As our team grows, that's constantly changing because of new roles and new talents that we bring in. We're really trying to focus on what are the talents of the people that we have working for us. Yeah. So, but in a nutshell, tracking and numbers, operator side is me. More she doesn't, the training side, management side would be more with Lori Adams.
Okay. All right, so let me ask you this. Where the potential like for conflict with 50-50 partnerships obviously is in the decision making, especially on where to lay out money, and a lot of that comes down to lead generation and things like that. So do you guys sit down with a budget together, and she gets your feedback in terms of the number tracking, and then she gives you her ideas, and then you try to meet somewhere in the middle and compromise on what you both want to do? Or are you guys so aligned that you kind of that you tend to go in the same direction anyway, and it's just a matter of like how much to spend?
Yeah, we've been working together for 10 years, even before partnering like this. And I mean, in the resale world, we were working together in a new home community. So we had the opportunity to work together and really learn from each other and understand one another at that point. And that helped us as we were starting our team and working together, building a new business in the resale world. So I would say for the most part, we're aligned. We might have some disagreements, or somebody has to sell whatever they're doing to the other partner. But for the most part, we stay within that line. I know Lori trusts me on the financial side to be able to say, hey, wait, I think we better look at these numbers. As for running the budget, that's a work in progress for us. We've got a general. We're not down to the micro level of the budget. We're kind of more of a macro level. But that is one thing that's really a big thing for us this year to work on as we're making a lot of our decisions moving into 2017.
Yeah, and Kevin, that's something we haven't really talked about on the show. So just for yourself and for tracking stuff for Jeff to help you guys make good decisions, how are you tracking budget stuff? Is it all just part of it's not part of the master database, right?
Well, if we talk purely just leads and lead sources, then we do have our ROI tracker built into our master database. So anything that we're paying X amount of dollars out to get a lead back, we're tracking that and making sure that it's got, some sort of positive ROI on it. And, it's something that we keep track of. Technically, it's supposed to be every month. Admittedly, a couple of months go by and it's a little bit more like once a quarter, where we'll update that ROI tracker, input the numbers that we need to. Half of it is manual, half of it is automatically pulling from the numbers that we're already tracking. But yeah, we're always just kind of constantly evaluating that, seeing how our lead sources are going. We're always making sure that our lead sources are getting at least about 6 months of time before we make any real decisions with them. So that's how we're tracking anything for the lead sources. Otherwise, we'll also sit down. We'll do things like budgets for our full admin staff. Our admin staff is pretty much fully funded by our broker fee that we charge on our team here for Omaha. So that includes, both of our transaction coordinators, client care coordinator, marketing assistant, and so on. So we're always, just tracking to see, what our budget is for what we're collecting off of those transactions per how much we're paying all of our admin staff, and that allows us to know if we can hire a new person or not, if we have the budget for it. So a lot of that's just kind of sitting down in terms of sitting down with Jeff and tracking that budget together. Like I said, probably about once a quarter is about as often as we do that, and just kind of keep our tabs on it. So. Did we lose Matt?
I think we might.
Oh, now he's back.
Yep. Yeah. And do you guys use a certain software for tracking, like the P&Ls, or just the overall budget for the team?
And P&Ls are obviously the official one is from our accountant, but we do. Honestly, we're just kind of spreadsheet junkies, and we'll hang out and Google Forms, and just have stuff that we share and collaborate with together. So as we make changes, we both obviously have the most up-to-date sheets. But yeah, nothing crazy software-wise. Really the numbers are pretty simple. It's just how much are you making versus how much you're paying out, and things like that. And then same with our lead sources too. How many leads are being generated versus what our GCI is per lead source, and so on. So at the current time, we haven't ran into any junctures where we haven't gotten the numbers that we're after, and we felt like we need to implement a new piece of software or pay for something or something like that. So.
Gotcha. Okay. And quick question for you, Lori. So on the broker fee side, do you guys charge anything, buyers, sellers, either one?
We do. You mean we charge the agents that work with us? Is that what you're saying? Yeah, we have a split. We have clients. A split. Okay, we have a split with our agents that work for us, and that's to help cover the costs of all the marketing that we do as the team and that sort of thing. As for clients, we do not charge a fee to our clients. If we absorb any of those costs, we've taken it as a cost of doing business.
Sure. Yeah, and that's more the typical approach. The broker fees are definitely a niche thing. And some people feel like they can't charge them. I would have guessed that too until I ran across Jeff, and they charge broker fees on both the buy and sell side in a pretty conservative Midwest market where But yeah, so it's worked for them. Obviously, it worked. Guys like Ben Kinney up in Washington, where the price point is higher. They've been doing that for quite a while with some pretty good success. But so I was just curious about that. But let's talk about how you manage the admin staff and kind of what's your day-to-day duties like. What's the rhythm of your day, and how often you're meeting with your staff and holding them accountable and making sure that they're staying on track with what they need to do.
Well, our business manager is who we actually hired to do our online our regular meetings with our clients. I'm sorry, my phone rang, so I got sidetracked. But our business manager, basically, they're the ones that meet with our staff on a regular basis. So we're actually trying to meet monthly with them to talk about, what's working for you, what's not working for you, what are your goals, and then our management team, for lack of a better word, I don't really like to call it a management team, but we actually are meeting weekly to talk about just the things that happen every single week, the recruiting, your budget, it's an hour meeting to talk about those big deals, marketing, things like that. And then she goes out and pushes it out, works with the admin team. Lori and I come back, we're back in the sales side. The goal is that we work ourselves either completely out of any type of admin role, doing any of that, just more having that weekly meeting, or doing less sales and working in more like me, probably working more operator side, whether it's 50-50 eventually all the way into the office, and not selling. That'll be down the road in the future.
Start to refer out some of the business that you're currently working, maybe, or something like that, to free up more of your time.
Correct. Working, those leads that I have or my contacts would be worked by other members of our team.
Yep. Yeah. I'm pretty much in the same position too, as, I'm also licensed and, can help people buy and sell if I choose to. Unfortunately, with a lot of just basically with what our positions are and all that kind of stuff, and what I have the time for anymore, I've got to just kind of refer that out as, to sell. I would have to do that on nights and weekends, and I do kind of enjoy my nights and weekends. So yeah, I kind of have a couple of quick designated people that I go to on my team. If it's a really close friend or, somebody, directly in my family, then I'll still definitely make that happen. But anymore, that's kind of the struggle too, is, if you are a licensed agent, who, what are you first, an agent who's doing admin stuff, or an admin person who's doing agent stuff? And then how you split your time, how you make that work for pretty much everybody that's involved in that. So yeah, that's always been interesting.
Yeah, and to be honest, as we're talking about that, that's been one of our toughest areas. That's a bit of struggle for us as we're going through this, and really working on saying, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. This is somebody else's job, or whether it's on the sales side or something that comes into the admin side. And we're constantly redefining those roles, and like I said, as the team grows and as we add different talents to the team. So it evolves every day. And I think we're getting to a place where we've got a couple other people coming on board that will help streamline some of this. I think the larger you get, that helps. Smaller, so many people have to do multiple jobs.
Oh yeah,
and so
helping to define specific roles for people, and they're just working on that, and so you can work on that or whatever. Yeah, it's been something that I've been doing too a lot myself, in terms of, as you grow and evolve, recognizing what are your most dollar productive activities. So some of the things that, data entry, for example, which admittedly I still do a little bit of that. But I have been offboarding that to my coordinators, which, who works with the data that needs to be inputted already and everything. So pretty easy transition there, but then it just allows me to continue to work on kind of a little bit more of the higher level stuff, for continuing to build out the business and all that. So.
Right. I just think as long as people understand that it changes as they grow. I mean, we started off at 2, we're at 8 right now. And, you know, that knowing that you have those ups and downs, and you have to come back and you have to relook at it because you can't keep it the same. That's the one thing that's for sure, is it doesn't stay the same. It will change.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. It's basically as deals grow, and that's kind of what we experienced too with our flagship Omaha team. You know, I mean, the more agents that we had, obviously, the more deals, the more demand for staff, and so on and so forth. So you get to have a lot of fun recruiting and finding the right talent, especially for your admin members and things like that too, which is what I oversee. So, yeah, I've kind of noticed similarities too between admin staff and agents in terms of crossover of, you just always kind of keep your eye out, I mean, somebody that, maybe you work a deal with on the other end might be somebody that's good for recruiting too, just in terms of their organization and all that kind of stuff. And likewise, what I said too about, like what we do in terms of charging broker fees, the more transactions we do, we're able to get more broker fees, have a larger budget to continue to add people to our staff as we grow and need it. And currently, we've never actually experienced a surplus for our budget for that. We've always had just the right amount of admin staff. So we'll see if we ever get to that point, how we choose to reallocate those funds if we need to, or if we just kind of hang on to it. So.
Yeah, that makes sense, because it's not Jeff's motive is not to turn admin into a profit center. It's just to keep on like scaling up with more people in advance of the need. So you're always a little bit overstaffed, which is it's a really good position to be in if you have the revenue to cover it. So Lori, talk to me a little bit about. I want to go a little bit more into the struggles or the difficulties and the challenges of being an operations person, especially with still having a kind of a foot into the agent side. So, I mean, on a daily basis, like how do you relate to your partner and bring her the information that she needs to understand kind of what you're dealing with? Because I deal with this all the time, both with Jeff and with my podcast co-host, who's my business partner, and other things. The super high D, hard charging, the sharks they're always on the move. They're idea machines, and you have to be the one that it's tough to sometimes be the bad guy where you say, yeah, I get that you've got like 10 great ideas, but really only 1 of 2 of those are great ideas that we can actually implement and do. So what's your approach? How do you work with Lori Adams on a daily basis to actually narrow those things down into things that you can actually implement and then work on?
Well, that's a fabulous question. I'd love to have her as a fly on the wall in here. Sometimes it works out really good, and sometimes it doesn't. We have a lot of difficult conversations and a lot of heated emotions at times, but the one thing that we both know is that we're on the same page and we're after the same goal, and that's to be successful as a company. And it goes both ways, because obviously, so she comes up with phenomenal ideas. You can't do it. And I'm more a structure function person. And sometimes that idea stuff just sets me over the edge, because my mind is just going like, how the heck do that? Now we have 15 million more things to do. And then the financials, a whole nother side. So usually it has to come out. We have to talk about it, whether we agree or disagree for a minute, and both of us go back to our own places and have some time to think. Then we usually come back. Sometimes it requires some processing, or there's an idea that she has, and then maybe I might say, okay, what if we did this, or how can we adjust the numbers? Vice versa, if I'm coming in and I'm being tight on something with a number, just kind of strong-headed on something, coming back with a different approach. And the biggest thing is knowing that you have to be able to have those conversations, and sometimes you want to tiptoe because they're not going to like this response, but you have to have those conversations, because if you don't have some of that disagreement, you don't go any further. And you were going to talk to me about some things that have helped us in that 5 Dysfunctions of a Team book that we read, and I don't remember who wrote it off the top of my head, but that was a really good book for the 2 of us to read, and it's a fable and stuff like that, but you can roll in that book, and you can see how and why your position is important, and also how you interact with others is important. So we kind of use that and kind of make light of it, but conversation sometimes.
Yeah, that's perfect. I think that's a great, I mean, I can't recommend that book anymore. I mean, anytime that's asked of me, I mean, just in terms of overall scope, and Patrick Lencioni, the author there of The Five
That's it.
Dysfunctions. And man, it's a fantastic book of just being able to take yourself out of that picture, see the different roles from an outside perspective, and how everything all kind of works in conjunction with each other. It's just a fantastic book, and we've had our entire team read it, and we do a book club every 2 months, and we've actually had that come through twice now to read that, just because it's such a good one. And we hire and recruit new agents, and they need to be on that same page too. So.
All right, so Lori, talk to me a little bit about like how you kind of manage projects within your admin team and for yourself in terms of the new things that you're working on for the team and kind of installing in the business. Do you try to limit that to a certain number of projects, or is there just maybe a way or a software that you use to track all the different projects that you have going on so you can kind of keep everybody on the same page?
Well, that's been a work in progress for us as well. As we've grown, we were working with like a doing done board. What is it? All the things that I do. What are you in the middle of, and what have you completed? So you can keep track of that. Then kind of went away from the boards because we wanted the space on the walls for other things, and started using Trello, which you can have on your phone, on your computer, and that's basically a doing done board, and you can have multiple people involved in that. But I have to say, as the team, we just to a board that we're posting up so everybody can see it. We have some things that might be completed still on the electronic side with the Trello area, but our business manager is the one that kind of takes the lead in those processes. And we had multiples going on at one time, and we came back and said, we're not big enough to have that many, because you start taking people off of what they're doing and you don't get anywhere. So we're trying to focus on what's the most important and only have one or two processes that we're working on at a time.
So some people were just getting inundated with projects, and you just weren't going anywhere fast, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing, is it's such a, there's so much great information. And when you're involved in things like this, we're on information overload with podcasts and seminars and the internet and everything that we have that's right at our hands. You always have these great ideas, but it's like, what's the most important? You talked about income producing activities. What's the most important that's going to help us today? And trying to prioritize those rather than just kind of flying off like a rocket, because that's how we started, is flying off like a rocket. And we had to come back and say, wait, what's the most important?
Sure. Yeah. And so if I followed you correctly in terms of your process, you went from board to Trello to back to board, or still kind of have some Trello in there too? Or?
Well, we do have some Trello in there, and mainly what we were talking about the Trello, now that we're using the board again, is more when we're in the process for tracking the items that we're doing that pertain to that specific process. So
but
the idea,
like I'm tracking at a high level using the board, and then detail level on the Trello board.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right, that makes sense. Yeah, I like that. I do something similar where I'll have like yearly goals, 90-day goals, like literally on Post-it notes. But then the actual projects that get me to the goals are in Trello, and everything has the individual checklist items, and then I can assign them to various members of the team and things like that. That helps me just like mentally. I even had to put a big, like what I call the big board or whatever, or some special projects or something like that, where I have all the like opportunities that are kind of like on the back burner, just to try to keep track of all the stuff that I'm not actively working on right now, but I would like to. I mean, there's so much stuff mentally to keep track of. You have to have that, whatever that second brain is for you, whether it's Evernote or Trello or whatever. But it's nice to have something where other people can get involved, and they can have checklists and things within that. So let's talk about the systems and processes side of things for your team. So, I mean, do you have, or are you working on developing kind of systems and checklists for everything in the business? Like, how far are you guys along in that process?
Yeah, that's the goal, is to have basically anything that we do is a process. And it's funny because that was a hard thing with Lori Adams, because she's not a process person. She's a free spirit and creative person. And so the process, but it's interesting to hear her talk now. And she's very into the processes, when are we going to have the process for this? And, but we've got we've got a listing process when we go out to take a listing. That's before we meet with the client. Once we've met with them, when it goes onto the market, what do we do if it goes pending? What do we do if it is pulled temporarily off the market? If we do a price reduction, and then same with once we're in escrow, we've got a process for referrals, process for open houses.
So those current processes, are those, what form are they in? Are they like in like a flow chart or checklist, or just kind of written out or bullet pointed or something like that?
Well, we've got both. The bullet point one on some of them that are maybe not handled on a regular basis, but like, let's say for the instance, the open house process, there's some of it that is in, we have a transaction management system that we use. And so almost every process that I mentioned to you right there is in our transaction management system. So if we're going to do a price reduction, we go in and we drop down and hit the price reduction. And then it comes up with a list of tasks, and it has a date and a timeline of when those are supposed to be completed and who is responsible for it. And so they get an email to know. You look in there to see what your tasks are. Most of the tasks are done or completed by the admin team, but there are some that the agents are responsible for too.
And what system is that?
Awesome.
We're using Realty. Excuse me?
Was that a software program that you used to kind of?
Yeah, we're using Realty Commander.
Realty Commander, okay.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's I think that's where a lot of teams struggle with, is like they hear, everything needs to be systematized, there needs to be a process for everything, but then they struggle with actually implementing that, because they're like where do I even start? Like, do I build Excel spreadsheets? Is it all Google Docs? Which is kind of like, Kevin, that's how our team in Omaha, the flagship office in Omaha, you built everything for the most part around Google Apps and Google Docs and spreadsheets, right?
Yeah, definitely heavy into Google Drive. Basically just an intranet that we created for the team that has pretty much everything that they'll ever need for agent-wise to do their transactions smoothly, paperwork and
Yeah, and that's the way when I was at when I was at Viral Marketing, that they started off that way, and then they moved everything over to there's like Google has an internal wiki system that you can actually build your own, almost an internal Wikipedia. So they moved to that. They've been really happy with that. That's another option for people out there to check out. I haven't moved to that, so all of my stuff, like Kevin, is on Google Apps, Google Docs for my internal team for the marketing stuff, and that's worked for us. Everything, like all of our processes, are in Google Docs. What I did find, though, is that it is not enough. Like, I have to constantly go back and monitor and make sure that the process are actually being followed, and do a quality review. And we're always finding little things where people will get used to the checklist as it is, and then they stop using the checklist, and then eventually one of those things will kind of fall off mentally, and I have to keep going back and, hey, let's get back to the process, So how do you monitor that, Lori, on a weekly or quarterly or monthly or whatever basis, just to kind of make sure people are following it, make sure that the processes are actually useful, like in a format where they're actually usable to them, and make sure that the quality level is high?
Yeah, I wish I could tell you that we have a specific time frame and how we do that. We did just redo one of our escrow process, and one of the reasons we didn't redo it, we kind of honed it in, and basically it's off of what you're saying. We found that there were holes that were being met. We were seeing that some tasks were sitting out there showing that they were being completed late or not being completed at all. And so the business manager is to help with that, trying to keep those in check. But what we found that we also needed to do is almost go back in that process and be more specific, because it was maybe too general in there. Like, how do you respond to that person? When do you call? And who's the person that's calling? Because we found that maybe the transaction manager was doing the information, but it wasn't being disseminated back to the client like we thought it was. So together, whoever's responsible for it, try and little or tweak those little areas. So you know if you haven't finished your task.
Awesome. All right, so let's and there's a resource that I can mention on that was really helpful to me. It's called Scale by Jeff Hoffman, and he goes into that. Kevin, you asked a great question, like for the processes, like what's the format, and he gives in that book. He brings out about how that's where a lot of people struggle, and he gives a bunch of options for different formats that your processes or systems can kind of live in. So Google Docs may not be right for you or your team, or you may be stuck in something else, legacy systems or whatever. But he gives a bunch of different options in that book. It's a really, really great book. And then, of course, the E-Myth is a great, just a mind. If you haven't already made that mindset shift of installing systems in your business and you need to go back and understand more about what that concept is, that's a great one. And then, obviously, the 5 dysfunctions of a team. So that kind of answers the question of what resources would be helpful to operations people that are in your positions. So I want to make sure that I mention those. Well, let's close it out with this. I want to make sure, Lori, that we get another mention of kind of exactly where you're at so people know where to send referrals, and then how do they contact you to send referral to you.
Okay. Yes, so I'm located in the San Joaquin County area, Northern California. We're about an hour south of Sacramento. The town that I'm specifically in is Manteca, but we work the Stanislaus and the San Joaquin County market. So if you have any referrals coming out, you can give me a call on that. And if it's not an area that I work or don't really specialize in, wouldn't be a great fit for you, then I can probably get you another name of an agent and would be happy to do that. The best way to reach us is giving us a call. Our number is 209-607-9606, and that would come into our client care coordinator, and he'll either forward you to one of us agents or help you get everything taken care of from there.
Awesome. Cool. And Kevin, you want to share briefly kind of the admin workshop, because I think that's really pertinent for the audience for this particular episode.
Yeah, absolutely. So once a month we host an admin workshop. It's in conjunction with our full team building workshop too. So if you have a team leader and some admin that want to come out for it, it works both simultaneously, side by side, which is great. But essentially, it's a full all-day workshop, so you can expect it to be at least, I'd say 8 to 12 hours. But for $1,000 per admin member, you fly into Omaha, you sit down with our flagship Omaha team, and then either myself and or our success manager, Andy Cuney, who, he kind of handles a lot of the agent side of things, holding them accountable, one-on-ones, so on and so forth. Some people cross over between being the ops manager and that success manager. So depending on the topic, you'd either be spending time directly with myself or Andy. But it's an all-day event, lots of great topics, basically the top 10 topics that people want maybe a little bit more knowledge on, or just want to see how we have chosen to systematize ourselves and how we run our admin staff and all that good stuff. So it's all day. You can come out with a team leader or just yourself individually, totally up to you. And you can find out more about it at eliterealestatesystems.com and go to our workshop area link at the top of the menu bar.
Yeah, and just a quick word on the registration part. So if you check out all the dates there, once you choose a date, then you can drop down and you can see and you can add in 2 or 3 admin members to that workshop from there. And if you've already come to the regular team building workshop and you just want to send different staff or admin staff or something, just reach out to us. Kevin at eliterealestatesystems.com is a great contact just to talk to you directly, because we'll work out something else. If they've already come through the team building workshop and now they want to send admin separately, we'll figure out how to do that for you. So, but with that, let's go ahead and wrap this one up. Lori, thank you so much for joining us. This has been awesome. This is exactly what I had in mind.
Yes, thank you, Lori.
Good. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, and everybody else, so much. Go to eliterealestatesystems.com, check out the workshops, check out expansion if you're interested in partnering with us to grow your team, or if you just want to check out the other editions of the podcast, especially, we've interviewed and masterminded with some of the top people in the operations side of things. The very first operations episode we did was with the head guy for Utah's #1 team, the Stern team, and so we've had some amazing guests just for the operations episodes of our podcast there. So be sure to check that out, and until the next edition, we will see you guys later. And thank you so much, guys.